Jack had always been known for his silence. Not the kind that comes from awkwardness or social discomfort. His silence was calculated, purposeful. His eyes spoke louder than his words ever could, and those eyes were now fixed on the small velvet box in his hand. He had waited 5 years for this. 5 years of watching from a distance, of nights haunted by a single face, a name he had tried, and failed, to forget. Emily. He turned the ring over between his fingers, the stone catching light from the nearby window. She had always loved simple things. No frills. No grand gestures. Just sincerity. And this ring, this proposal, was everything he had left to offer. Jack had built a career on control. As an architect, he had designed flawless structures, masterpieces of order and strength. But nothing in his life had prepared him for the collapse of everything he believed when she left. Now, she was back. Not in his life, not yet. But in the same city. Same street. Same bakery she used to visit every Sunday morning for cinnamon rolls and coffee. He had watched her from across the street last weekend. She hadn't seen him. Or if she had, she hadn't looked twice. But he saw her. He saw the new version of her. The one who wore her hair up now, who smiled less, who walked a little faster, as if trying to outrun something. Or someone. Jack had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. The moment when he would try again. When he would fix what he had broken. If she let him. Emily had moved back into her mother's old house 3 weeks ago. The place still smelled like lavender and dust. The walls still had photos she hadn't had the heart to take down. Claire's handwriting was still etched in pencil on the kitchen wall where she used to measure Emily's height as a kid. Coming back had felt like stepping into a museum, not of history, but of pain. But it was all she had left. Her job in Chicago had ended abruptly. Her fiancé, Ryan, had ended things even more abruptly. So here she was. Back in the house she had tried to forget. Back in the town where everything had once started, and ended, with Jack. She hadn't expected to see him. She hadn't even dared think about him. But when she turned the corner by Main Street and saw the familiar figure crossing toward the coffee shop, her heart had slammed against her ribs so violently she thought it might bruise. She didn't stop. She didn't call out. She walked faster. And told herself it didn't matter. But it did. Grace, Emily's best friend since college, noticed the change instantly. "You saw him, didn't you?" Emily didn't answer. "You did," Grace said, setting down her wine glass. "You have that look. The one that says, 'My heart just got punched and I'm pretending I'm fine.'" Emily gave her a weak smile. "Was it that obvious? To me? Always." Emily sighed. "It's been 5 years, Grace. I thought I was over it. Are you?" She didn't answer. Because the truth was, no, she wasn't. Jack stood outside the bakery that Sunday. Same place. Same time. Emily walked up the sidewalk, head down, clutching her coat like armor. He didn't move. She stopped. Their eyes met. And for a moment, the town, the people, the sound, it all fell away. "Hi," she said. "Hi." It was the first word they had exchanged in 5 years. "I wasn't sure you still lived here," she added. "I wasn't sure you'd come back." A pause. She nodded toward the bakery. "Still the best cinnamon rolls in town." He smiled. "Still the worst coffee." She almost laughed. Almost. They stood in silence for a moment longer. Then she nodded. "Well, take care, Jack." He wanted to say something. Anything. But the words didn't come. And she walked away. Later that night, Emily found herself staring at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. Jack's eyes haunted her more now than they had back then. Back when they were full of fire and certainty. Now, they held something else. Regret. She didn't know what he wanted. But she knew he hadn't said goodbye. Not really. Jack placed the ring back in its box. He had waited 5 years. He could wait a little longer. It had been 9 days since Emily ran into Jack outside the bakery. 9 days of silence. No calls. No chance encounters. No reason to believe he was even thinking about her. But he was. He always had. Jack wasn't the kind of man to make the same mistake twice. He had spent 5 years regretting the way he had walked away. The way he had let her go without fighting. He didn't intend to repeat that mistake. This time, he had a plan. Emily sat by the window, sipping her 3rd cup of coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. The mornings here were slower than in Chicago. People still waved. Dogs barked at squirrels. And the mail was still delivered by the same man who'd worked this route since she was in high school. Everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. She had changed. And not just because of the job or the breakup or the years that had slipped by too fast. She had changed because of Jack. Because no matter how far she had run, his memory had followed her. And now he was here, not just in her memories, but in her mornings, her streets, her silence. Grace showed up uninvited, as usual, with iced coffee and attitude. "You need to stop brooding," she announced, walking in like she owned the place. "I'm not brooding." "You're absolutely brooding. This is your brooding outfit. Oversized hoodie, messy bun, staring out the window like you're in a music video from 2008. Emily rolled her eyes. "You're dramatic. And you're in denial." Grace handed her the coffee. "I ran into Jack," she said casually. Emily froze. "When?" "This morning. At the hardware store." Emily arched a brow. "What were you doing at the hardware store?" "Buying batteries. And spying." Emily sighed. "He asked about you," Grace said. Emily looked down at her cup. "What did he say?" "Just, if you were okay. If you were staying. If you still hated him." Emily didn't answer. "So?" Grace pushed. "Do you hate him?" Grace nodded. Emily's voice was quiet. "I wish I did." Jack stood outside her house 3 days later, holding the envelope. It was old-fashioned. Handwritten, sealed. He didn't trust texts for something like this. He slid it into her mailbox and walked away without looking back. Inside was one line, "Meet me at the place where it all began." Emily stared at the note for 15 minutes before she moved. Her hands shook as she grabbed her coat. The place where it all began. There was only one. The lake. Their spot. It hadn't changed. The dock still creaked. The trees still leaned just enough to give them shade. The water still shimmered, catching the last light of day. He was already there. Sitting on the edge of the dock, legs dangling, jacket folded beside him. She approached slowly. He looked up. And stood. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I almost didn't." I know. They stood a few feet apart. The silence between them wasn't heavy, it was familiar. Why now, Jack? She asked. Why after all this time? He took a breath. Because I'm still in love with you. The words hit her like a wave. She blinked. Once. Twice. You don't get to say that, she whispered. I have to. No, you don't. Not after 5 years. Not after leaving me like that. I know I don't deserve anything, he said. But I needed you to know. She looked away, out over the water. I waited for you, she said. 4 months. I didn't understand. I thought I had done something wrong. You didn't. Then why? He exhaled. Because I was scared. Because I thought I had to have everything figured out before I could be with you. My career, my future, my worth. She shook her head. I didn't need perfect. I just needed you. I know, he said. And I failed you. She crossed her arms. So what now? You think one letter and a confession fixes everything? No, he said. But maybe it's a start. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. The man he had become wasn't the boy who left. There was something steadier about him now. Sadder. Wiser. But still. Jack. She stepped forward. One coffee, she said. He blinked. What? I'll meet you for coffee. Tomorrow. 1 hour. That's all you get. His lips twitched. Best offer I've had all year. That night, Emily stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair. She wasn't sure what she was doing. She wasn't sure if she was opening a door or just cracking a window. But she knew she wasn't ready to shut it completely. Not yet. The coffee shop hadn't changed. Same faded menu board. Same tiny bell above the door. Same barista, now with a few more wrinkles and the same knowing smile. Emily stepped inside at 10:02 a.m. Jack was already there. He stood when he saw her, that old habit, still intact, and she gave him the smallest of smiles. She ordered her drink. He paid without asking. They sat by the window. Just like they used to. But everything was different now. The silence wasn't awkward, it was cautious. Like two people walking barefoot across a floor they weren't sure was solid. Emily stirred her coffee, not looking at him. So, she said. Is this the part where you apologize again? Jack didn't flinch. I'll apologize as many times as it takes. She glanced up. Once is enough, if you mean it. He nodded slowly. I do. A pause. Emily set her spoon down. Why didn't you reach out before now? Jack's voice was quiet. I tried. I just, never followed through. Why? Because I was ashamed. Because I thought you'd moved on. Because every time I picked up the phone, I heard your voice in my head telling me not to. She gave a bitter laugh. I said that? No. But I imagined it. And it stopped me. Emily looked at him, really looked. He looked tired. Not just physically, soul tired. I was angry, she admitted. You had every right to be. I hated you for a long time. I hated me, too. Another silence. Then, I never stopped loving you, she said. Jack's eyes snapped up to hers. And there it was, the moment. The shift. The heartbeat that changed everything. I thought I'd forgotten, she continued. I thought I buried it. But seeing you again. She shook her head, eyes burning. You ruined me, Jack. He reached across the table, slowly, like a man approaching a wild animal. Then let me help fix what I broke. She didn't take his hand. Not yet. But she didn't pull away either. They started seeing each other once a week. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long conversations in parked cars. But nothing more. No kisses. No touches. Just time. Emily was careful. Measured. Guarded. Jack was patient. Present. Unfailingly kind. He didn't push. He didn't ask. He just showed up. One evening, after dinner at Grace's, Emily found herself standing at her front door, key in hand, Jack at her side. The air between them was full of almosts. He looked at her. Good night, he said. Good night. She turned to unlock the door. Then froze. She turned back. And kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't careful. It just happened. When she pulled away, his eyes were wide. Sorry, she whispered. He shook his head. Don't be. Good night, she said again, voice softer now. Good night, Emily. Inside, she leaned against the door, heart racing. She had kissed him. And she didn't regret it. Not even a little. The next morning, Jack was waiting outside the bakery with 2 coffees. When she approached, he handed her one with a grin. You kissed me, he said. I did. Do I get to kiss you back? She smirked. Maybe. Tomorrow. Maybe. But tomorrow didn't come. Because that night, everything changed. It started with a phone call. Emily was brushing her teeth when her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice. Emily Parker. Yes. My name is Rachel. I'm Ryan's sister. Emily's stomach dropped. Ryan. My brother. I know you haven't spoken in a while, but he's in the hospital. Emily went cold. What happened? There was a car accident. He was asking for you. She gripped the sink. Is he okay? They don't know. He's in critical condition. Please, can you come? She didn't think. She just grabbed her coat and keys. She texted JCK, emergency. Ryan's in the hospital. I'll explain later. Then she was gone. Ryan. The man she had nearly married. The man who had broken her heart in an entirely different way. She hadn't thought about him in weeks. Now, he was dying. And asking for her. At the hospital, Rachel led her to the ICU. Ryan looked pale. Broken. Tubes and machines surrounded him like a cage. Emily felt 1,000 things at once. Pain. Guilt. Anger. Confusion. She sat beside him. He opened his eyes, barely. I'm here, she said softly. He reached for her hand. I was wrong, he whispered. Tears filled her eyes. Ryan, I didn't know how to love you. But I never stopped trying. She didn't speak. Because she didn't know what to say. Because part of her still cared. And part of her had moved on. He squeezed her hand weakly. "Don't leave again." And she realized something, she wasn't the same woman he had known. Not anymore. She stayed for hours. Until the nurses made her leave. And when she stepped outside, the sky was already turning gray with dawn. She checked her phone. No new messages. Jack hadn't replied. But maybe he didn't need to. Maybe he already knew. Emily didn't sleep. She sat on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, the hospital wristband still on her arm. Her thoughts were tangled, a web of old wounds and fresh guilt. Jack hadn't called. But maybe he was waiting for her to call first. She picked up her phone a dozen times. Typed and deleted. Typed and deleted. In the end, she didn't send anything. Because what could she say? "Sorry I kissed you and then ran to my ex's hospital bed." It all sounded wrong. It all felt wrong. Jack sat in his truck outside her house. He hadn't knocked. He just sat there, waiting. He saw her light turn off around 4 a.m. Then back on 20 minutes later. She was awake. So was he. But neither of them moved. The next day, Emily went back to the hospital. Ryan was awake. Coherent. Emotional. He apologized again. For leaving. For running. For the ring he never gave her. "I thought I wasn't enough for you," he said. Emily looked at him, and saw the boy she'd once loved. Not the man she needed now. "I think we were just wrong for each other," she said gently. Ryan nodded. Tears in his eyes. "I'm glad you came." "Me too." But when she left the room, she didn't look back. Because her heart was somewhere else. She found Jack at the lake. He didn't seem surprised to see her. "I figured you'd come here," he said, not turning around. She stepped beside him. "I should have called," she said. He nodded. "Ryan's going to be okay." "That's good." Silence stretched between them. "He asked me to stay," she said. Jack's jaw tightened. "And are you?" "No," he looked at her now. "Because of me?" She shook her head. "Because of me." They sat on the dock, legs swinging. The sun dipped low. "I thought I lost you again," Jack admitted. "You didn't." "I didn't know if I had the right to be upset." "You do." "But I wasn't angry," he said. "Just scared." "Me too." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I don't want to be your maybe, Emily." "You're not." "Then what am I?" She reached for his hand. "You're the one I came back to." After that night, things shifted. Their connection deepened. Softened. Jack became part of her life again, not as a shadow of the past, but as something real. Present. They built new memories. Morning coffee runs. Movie nights on the couch. Lazy Sunday drives with no destination. And for the first time in a long time, Emily felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Then the letter arrived. No return address. No name. Just one sentence. "You deserve to know the whole truth." Inside was a photo. Jack. Years younger. Standing beside a man Emily didn't recognize. But something in the background caught her eye. A document. A signature. Her name. And the company logo above it, Briar Hill Institute. Her heart dropped. Emily confronted Jack that night. What is this? He looked at the photo. Froze. Where did you get this? It came in the mail. Jack exhaled slowly. I was hoping you'd never see that. Why? Because it changes everything. She stepped back. Then tell me. He sat down, ran a hand through his hair. I met you at Briarhill. What? You don't remember. You were part of a trial. A clinical study. I was assigned to monitor patient responses. You were one of them. Emily's pulse thundered. You worked there. I didn't know what they were doing at first. Not really. But the more I found out, the more I wanted out. She was shaking. You lied to me. I didn't know how to tell you. You built a relationship with me based on a lie. No. I fell in love with you despite it. She stared at him. Stunned. Numb. I need time, she whispered. He nodded. I understand. Grace was the first person she called. And Grace didn't hesitate. You should have told me he was part of the trial. I didn't know. Do you still love him? Emily wiped her face. Yes. Then talk to him. But don't forgive him just because it hurts not to. Emily hung up without answering. Because she didn't have one. She returned to the lake the next day. Jack was already there. Waiting. Again. He stood as she approached. I'm sorry, he said. I know. I should have told you. You should have. But I never lied about my feelings. I know that too. She looked out over the water. I'm not sure what's worse, she said. That you were part of it, or that you thought I couldn't handle knowing. He didn't answer. I don't need perfect, she said. I need honest. I can do that. She finally looked at him. Then start now. Jack told her everything. The trial. The files. The treatments. How she had been part of a group studying emotional memory retention. How her records had been erased when the program was shut down. How he had fought to get her out. And how she had walked away from the institute with no memory of it at all. How did I end up here? You signed yourself out. You didn't want to remember. And you just let me forget. I didn't want to lose you. She shook her head. I lost myself. The days that followed were quiet. No dramatic speeches. No big decisions. Just space. Time. Until one evening, Jack knocked on her door. She opened it. He held up a box. Not velvet. Not a ring. Just a simple cardboard box. What's that? She asked. Everything I kept. From back then. Letters. Photos. The truth. She looked at it. Then at him. And stepped aside. Come in. Jack placed the box on the coffee table, then sat on the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure if he was welcome to stay. Emily sat across from him, hands folded, eyes steady. Are you sure? She asked. He nodded. You said you wanted the truth. She opened the lid. Inside were photos, faded, some torn at the corners. Most were of her. Smiling. Laughing. Sitting in the sunlight. She didn't recognize any of them. This was me, she whispered. Before the trial. Before everything. She picked up a small notebook, her handwriting on the cover. Inside, entries from a life she'd forgotten. Moments she hadn't known she was missing. And letters. Dozens of them. Written to her. From Jack. He had written even after she'd left Briarhill. He had written when she didn't remember him. When she didn't even know her own name. "I never stopped," he said quietly. "Even when you forgot me. I couldn't." Tears burned in her eyes. "This is a lot," she whispered. "I know." They sat in silence as she read. Page after page. Memory after memory. And with each one, something inside her shifted. Later that night, she walked him to the door. He stood there, unsure of what came next. "I don't expect anything," he said. "I just wanted you to know. All of it." She nodded. "I need time to process." "Take all you need." He turned to leave. Then stopped. She stepped forward and kissed his cheek. "Thank you," she said. "For the truth." A week passed. Then 2. Emily read every word in that box. Twice. She cried. She remembered. Not everything. But enough. She walked the streets they used to walk. Returned to the lake. The bakery. She sat in the coffee shop and ordered his usual. And one morning, she knew. She walked to his house. Knocked. When he opened the door, he looked surprised. Hesitant. "Hi," she said. "Hi. I'm not here to forget anymore." Jack swallowed. "I don't want you to. I'm here to remember. With you." He stepped aside. "Come in." A year later, they stood by the lake again. Same dock. Same light. Same girl. Same man. But different hearts. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a new box. Smaller this time. Velvet. She smiled before he even opened it. "I know you waited," she said softly. "I'd wait forever." He dropped to one knee. "I love you," he said. Then. Now. Always. Tears welled in her eyes. "I remember. They weren't perfect. But they were honest. And that made all the difference."